going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining me today on Vicious Whispers with Mark Tullius. Today's short story will be The Artist, and that is from Twisted Reunion. I'll play that at the end of the episode. Recently read a review of Twisted Reunion, which was awesome. 5 stars. They loved it. But they mentioned that The Artist was one of their favorite stories. It's definitely one of my favorite ones. Usually I like stories that have a lot more dialogue in them, but this one was kind of fun to play around with. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it as well if you haven't heard it before. Just got done with Halloween. That was kind of fun. I got to watch my son and daughter go trick-or-treating. My daughter's getting to the age where, well, she's 11 right now, but she's taller than her mom, looking very mature. She dressed up as Harley Quinn. And yeah, I don't know how many more years she'll dress up, but that was fun to see that she wanted to do it. She was helping to take all the little kids up to the doors and everything, go trick-or-treating, so that was really cool. And my son was Baby Groot, so he had a lot of fun with that and enjoyed going with his friends. I did not dress up this year. Last year, the whole family dressed up as pirates, something I usually don't do. Yeah, so this year I just wore my Try Not to Die shirt. I was like, that shit's scary enough. What else has been going on? I have made a new commitment to Jiujitsu. I don't know how long it is going to last because of my neck and my shoulder issues. I decided I would try to train 3 days a week at Pasadena, 10th Planet Pasadena, since I'm up there anyhow for my neurofeedback and NUCCA treatment. I figured it made sense. I was like, well, I'm going to be up there anyhow. It's going to take a lot more time out of my day, out of my week. Each of those days will be an extra 2.5 hours that I won't have to write. I'm going to have to find writing time somewhere else, but hopefully I will, hopefully it'll be worth the trade-off. I went yesterday. Well, my first day back was Wednesday. The next day, my low back was really sore. I was afraid I was going to be out of alignment. So when I saw my doctor, my NUCCA doctor on Monday, she tested everything out. She said, no, I was in perfect alignment. She didn't need to adjust me. Looks like jiu-jitsu should be fairly safe. She warned me saying that, because every jiu-jitsu session is definitely not going to be the same. We'll be working different things. I'll put myself in different positions. She said, who knows, maybe it's going to hold 8 times out of 10. So there's really no saying, but I don't think it's definitely not going to stop me from training. The other issue I have is my right shoulder is pretty bad. That's the one I've done stem cell on, the cortisol shot, I've had fluid removed from it, done tons of PT, and it still hurts. So I was like, well, fuck, if it's going to hurt anyhow, I might as well just get back into jiu-jitsu, do as much as I can. I would really like to earn my brown belt. So, yeah. And then if I do need surgery, I was probably going to need it anyhow. So, fuck it. It may just speed things up. It was difficult, though, getting back into it because, man, it's humbling. The ego can definitely get in the way. I knew I haven't been doing shit. I haven't been training much at all. I haven't been doing much yoga. I knew my cardio was going to be terrible. I haven't paid attention to any jiu-jitsu, haven't trained, haven't watched videos. So even all the terminology is fucking kind of foreign to me right now. But I went in, did it, had fun, met some new people. They're all really cool. Yesterday I went back in and got murdered by another purple belt. The guy just destroyed me, could have done anything he wanted. If I get back, and I'm telling myself this, I was like, okay, if I get back into training, I'll probably be able to I'll definitely do much better against him, but he's probably always going to have my number. And that's just something that, like, okay, why should I even have a problem with that? That's definitely just an ego thing. I'm going in to train and to get better and to get exercise and all these other reasons. So why would I even let something like that stop me? So I'm not going to. I did take off today because I wanted to get some work done. I wanted to get this podcast in. And I just trained yesterday, so I'm still pretty fucking beat up. We were doing a lot of ankle locks, and my lower legs are a mess. I'm just not used to it. But it is cool that, I'm going to make it start part of my routine. And I think that should definitely help me just get in a better place. As far as being in a better place, I recently just had my second brain map done at Vital Head and Spine, where I go for the NUCCA and the neurofeedback. I wasn't sure what to expect, whether or not there's been much improvement. Like, I definitely feel 100% like there has been improvement, a huge amount of improvement. It's hard to know how much of it is because of that, but I'm guessing the majority is between that and NUCCA. That has been the biggest change lately to what I've been doing for the last probably about three months or so, maybe 4. Maybe it hasn't even been that long. I think I had about 20 sessions, and I go like 2 to 3 times a week. But my results were pretty amazing. I met with Dr. Licata yesterday, and he was able to show me just how much my processing speed has gone up, how much my attention has gone up, my focus, all that has improved greatly. In fact, on the first time I got tested, I forget exactly how they listed, but with the numbers I had, it would pretty much show that, I was ADHD. Now my new numbers are like, no, I'm no longer there. I'm past that point. So it has definitely helped me a lot in that area. And then showing, it also shows like a color coding of your brain, all the different areas of your brain. I had several spots, especially my the prefrontal cortex, and so pretty much the entire front area of my brain severely under functioning. We were going into that yesterday, looking at my first results. So out of all the men that they tested that are my age, I was at like 0.1%, the lowest 1% of that ability in those areas, and which is kind of scary. But all that definitely jumped up a bunch, and I'm going to continue it. So not only am I going to do the next 20 sessions, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to continue it long term. I don't know how long, maybe another year, maybe 2. And then I'm also doing jiu-jitsu with it. That'll be pretty cool to go train my brain and then go train my body. So that is the goal. We'll see how long that lasts. But the other really cool thing that happened was during the conversation with Dr. Licata, I mentioned my biggest fear. My biggest fear is that even though I'm doing all this shit, I'm doing the functional medicine, I'm taking all the correct supplements, I think I've gotten rid of all the inflammation in my brain, I'm doing the neurofeedback, I'm doing cognitive therapy, I'm doing all these things. I've been doing a lot of the Wim Hof breathing and cold therapy. My biggest fear is I'm doing all this shit and it's not going to matter because I'm still going to end up with CTE and the neurodegenerative brain disease. And so my thought has been, maybe I'm improving my brain for now, and which is awesome, and that makes a lot of sense. But my fear was that down the road, I'm going to end up pretty fucked from all the stupid shit that I've done to myself. But he definitely made me feel better. The way he was explaining, he's like, no, he's like, look, he's like, you've improved. One of the big things that they've done for me is improve the amount of deep sleep I get at night. So now I fall asleep faster. I'm removing more of the bad shit, like the tau. All the waste is removed in your deep sleep, and that's also when you're getting growth hormone releases. So that's improved. Again, rid of the inflammation. The NUCCA opened everything up. Definitely improved like blood flow and everything else. Just everything I'm doing should be preventing me from getting CTE. So hopefully that is the case. If we find out in 20 years that it is not, then I want you guys to hunt down Dr. Licata and tell him that he fed me some false information. Nah, don't do that. He's awesome, dude. I'm incredibly grateful for them. If you guys do look into neurofeedback, which I highly recommend for anyone that has had any kind of traumatic brain injuries, dealing with concussions, that sort of thing, or just simply wants to improve their brain, you do have to make sure that it is at a reputable place that does mind mapping. As he described it, I think there's like maybe 5,000 places that do neurofeedback. About 4,500 of those places don't even do a mind map, where they're not mapping your brain at all. And so they're just randomly trying to fix you without knowing exactly what parts of your brain are under functioning or over functioning. That is not something that I would fuck with. I would not recommend that. I don't recommend that at all. I would go to a place that does a good mind map and is making and it has a good partner behind them. Like all of our stuff goes through Peak, which is I believe that's Andrew Hill. He's been on the Joe Rogan podcast. If you guys are interested in hearing more about neurofeedback, that's actually a really good episode to watch. So yeah, check out Joe Rogan and Andrew Hill. I think it was about 4 years ago, but Google that shit and it will pop up. But yeah, I'm incredibly impressed with what has happened with me so far. I also see what's happening with my wife and my daughter. Both of them have improved. So yeah, I'm all about it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed last week's episode. I thought that was pretty cool meeting with Walter. I mean, really, first 20 minutes of the episode, he didn't know what he was really. He thought he was writing about the other episode, the other story, Try Not to Die on the Reservation. And so in about 40 minutes, we were able to completely plot out Try Not to Die in Watts. And that's going to be a lot of fun. That was actually on my wish list of things to write about. Like, I didn't know definitely, it wasn't specifically Watts, but I wanted to write about something in that time period because that was a huge influence on me. I grew up, like, that was the time of the Rodney King riots. That was something that definitely affected me. I had friends that were going to school at USC and South Central, and I don't know. So all that stuff definitely interests me. It'd be cool to write about it. So Walter, he already sent me his first chapter. He's off to a great start, especially for not writing before or not writing fiction. So that's going to be really cool. Matt Santos already is, like, he's kicking ass. He just started and all on his own. I think he's done at least 3 chapters. He's on vacation this week. But yeah, so it's pretty cool. So even if I'm not doing as much of my own writing right now, I'm doing a lot more delegating and with the Try Not to Dies, and that's also cool. It's like, 'cause, shit, in 5 years, I definitely want at least 12 of these things out, if not more. Yeah, so that's kind of my focus right now is on the Try Not to Dies. I am still working on the bridge, cleaning that up. I'm about to I'm about to jump back into the brain book. I just haven't done it yet, just because I'm so limited in time, and I have to give my fiction a fair shake. And truthfully, the brain book was pretty fucking depressing. It was putting me in a bad place. I didn't want to really think about brain damage, but now that I'm going at it with this new hope, like, that is going to help, and hopefully it is like a legitimate, well grounded hope, and not just me fucking reaching for the stars and just hoping that I'm going to be okay. I think this is legit. I think I have found something that's really going to make a difference in my life. What else? Other fiction. What do we got? Oh, Untold Mayhem. Started assigning all the illustrations that we'll be doing. I'm doing a couple myself. Have my son doing one, my daughter, different friends. I'm gonna have a couple fans contribute to it. So that'll be cool for Untold Mayhem. Have the cover all designed, ready to go. I just need to do the front and back matter for the book, which is what I'm supposed to be working on today. Same goes for Try Not to Die and Brightside. That is pretty much done. I don't know when we are going to release that one yet. I need to figure out the best way to do it, but I'm pretty sure we are going to release a chapter a week, have like a big contest. Maybe it won't be a week. Maybe we'll do it over just every 2 days or something like that. But I'll release a chapter on Wattpad, Goodreads, and probably YouTube, and then have 3 separate contests where whoever can get through, make the correct number of choices, the least amount of deaths will be the person that wins. Still don't know what all the prizes are going to be, but I got to figure that out. So, and that's another thing I got to do today is I'm going to write to some of the people at Goodreads and Wattpad and see the best way to run this kind of contest, where it should be cool for fans. It's a way to see the book before it's even released, and have a little contest with it. So that is what I plan on doing. When it actually happens, who fucking knows? All right, guys. Talking about all this is making me anxious. I got so much fucking shit to do. And my son is only at school for another 3 hours. So I'm going to leave you guys with the artist. I'm going to get busy, do some work, and hopefully I will talk to you next week. thank you so much for listening. Hope you guys enjoy this short story, which is narrated by my buddy T. Quillen. All right, guys. Peace.
The Artist. The artist climbed the final flight of stairs, opened the door, and then locked it behind her. Today would be a busy day, just like every other one, and she couldn't be bothered while she was at work. She climbed onto the swivel stool in the middle of the tiny room and turned toward the north-facing window with the easel directly beneath it. After placing a blank canvas on the easel, she looked out the window, admiring the beautiful nothingness before her. With remarkable speed, she painted the T intersection where Main Street ran into West Oak Avenue. A few moments later, a row of beautiful trees lined the east side of the road. Their shade spread across the blacktop. The artist sat up and looked out the window, pleased. The deserted streets miles below her were exactly as she had rendered them on the canvas. Afraid she'd lose her inspiration, the artist brushed a peaceful morning sky. Then an elderly couple on Main Street walking hand in hand, appreciating the beautiful sun, each of them aware they only had a limited amount of time left, enjoying every passing moment. On the other side of the street, nearing the intersection, a young mother pushed a bright red stroller and smiled down at her infant daughter, staring in wonder at the balloon frozen in the sky. Knowing the people were outside the window just as she had drawn them, the artist continued. With a few strokes of her brush, she painted an 18-year-old boy on his father's Harley out for a leisurely ride. One day, God willing, he would have a bike of his own, and a loving son he could lend it to. A few strokes later, she'd painted a yellow bus full of elementary school honor roll students. The PTA had rewarded them with a day of fun at the beach. Laughter floated through the bus as the kids celebrated a Sunday free from homework, chores, church, and other obligations. They worked so hard every day, and now they finally had a chance to just be kids. The artist set the painting against the wall and looked out the window. Her creation slowly came to life. The elderly couple sat on the bench. The school bus headed toward the stoplight. Time inched by so she could enjoy every expression, appreciate every emotion of the children pressing their faces to the windows. The driver tapped the brakes. The biker held up his hand and waved at the elderly couple who were friends of his grandmother. The mother now stopped at the corner, waiting patiently for the walk signal, bent down and smoothed her daughter's fine blonde hair. Panic didn't set in on the bus driver's face until the third time he tried the brakes. He had no way of knowing the cable had snapped after years of use and poor maintenance, but he did know he was just a few feet from the intersection and the motorcycle that had just entered it. Even from way up in her tower, the artist heard the blaring horn. The biker brought his hand back to the handlebars and tried to swerve out of the way. It wasn't due to the lack of skill or slow reaction, but the bus struck the tail end of his bike. He flipped over the front wheel. The bus driver jerked the wheel to the right, losing control of the vehicle. Young screams pierced the crisp morning air as the bus rushed towards the row of trees. At the exact moment the biker sailed into the stroller, the bus wrapped its front end around the trunk of a tall oak. The engine slammed back into the main compartment, severing the driver's legs and pinning him into the seat as tiny bodies flew past him, smashing into and through the windshield. The artist studied the smoldering wreckage. She cringed at the pained, confused expression of the biker who broke his back against the light post, completely unaware of the mother screaming at him to get off her baby. She counted the little bodies hanging from the bus windows and smashed against the tall tree. She breathed in the familiar scent of gasoline and watched as sparks ignited the back of the bus, trapping the survivors in an inferno. The elderly woman stood in horror, torn between helping the children or her husband of 52 years, lying on the sidewalk, suffering a massive heart attack. Discouraged with her first attempt, the artist turned to the eastern window and contemplated the nothingness, wondering what she should fill it with. After a few moments, she sat back on her stool and designed an elaborate amusement park. What would take others years, she painted in seconds, each calculation precise, every angle exact. The brilliance behind its design was evident as she looked out the window and admired its grandness. An amusement park without visitors to enjoy it was the equivalent of a perfect snowflake melting before anyone could see it. Quickly, she moved the brush across the canvas, leaving thousands of bodies in its wake. Eighth graders raised their hands and screamed as they rushed down the steep descents of a roller coaster, while their older brothers and sisters became better acquainted with the Ferris wheel. Parents in line for the log flume gave their children their first taste of cotton candy. The lines weren't too long, and the weather was just right. She had just created the perfect day. The artist stood at the window and watched parents pull their babies off the carousel and then down beer after beer. She heard the loud crack come from the roller coaster snaking and looping through the entire park. The first car, occupied by a 5-year-old redhead and his father, had just reached the crest of the 10-story climb, about to race down the decline in order to build enough speed to complete the 2 corkscrews. The father heard the crack as the car began its descent, pulling the rest of the train with it. When the final car passed the crest, the train zoomed toward the corkscrews. Every passenger raised their arms and screamed as they plummeted. The broken coupling connecting the first car to the second held halfway through the first twist. When it gave, the first car shot off the tracks and headed for the lake 50 yards away. The little boy hadn't even realized they had left the track until his father's arms were severed by an electric wire. Both father and son died on impact, so they didn't see the wire fall into the brown building that housed the fireworks. The father and son didn't see the building explode into a blazing fire that spread in the wind. They didn't see the thousands of people caught up in the flames, the crowd panicking and trampling those who had fallen. But the artist did. She rested her arm on the window ledge and watched the story unfold. She listened to each wail and unanswered prayer and every damning curse. She smelled their fear and the sharp stench of burning flesh. She felt their sadness, their loss. When she couldn't handle any more, she turned to the southern window. The emptiness begged her to fill it, but she was hesitant to try once again to create a perfect picture. Finally, she decided that sometimes the simplest thing was best. She began depicting the core of the human race, one man and one woman who had taken each other in marriage, vowing to love one another till death did they part. The artist glanced out the window and watched the disheveled 33-year-old enter their living room and head to the dining room table. Saturday night's business dinner had turned very unprofessional, and all he wanted to do was close the blinds and crawl into bed. His wife was waiting for him at the table, holding a small, unmarked box behind her back, smiling from ear to ear. The artist returned to her canvas and filled in the details. On the table, a mound of unopened mail that the man hadn't the courage to open. The white box held a pregnancy test that had finally read positive after so many failed attempts. The artist remained seated and listened as the wife asked her husband how the dinner went and if he made the sale. He grunted something about the same old bullshit and opened the mail. His wife's next question was drowned out by his curses and the tearing of a letter in two. This was repeated 3 more times before the artist painted the couple's deceased son's Louisville Slugger. They kept it mounted on the wall, just within the husband's reach. After setting the finished piece against the wall, the artist listened as the wife broke the good news that they would once again have a family. The husband, overwhelmed by an unsuccessful career, a demanding mistress, and insurmountable bills, didn't tell his wife the baby couldn't be his. He couldn't admit to her that he'd had a vasectomy after their son died. He couldn't admit that he'd been lying to her every month of the past 5 years when she cried because she wasn't pregnant. He also couldn't contain his rage as he wondered whose baby she was carrying. The artist winced at the first thump. She didn't want to watch what he did with his dead son's baseball bat. Knowing the doctor had botched the vasectomy didn't make it any easier for the artist to watch the wife cower on all fours to protect the baby, screaming for God to stop him. God didn't, and the man continued the onslaught until the house was silent, except for his heavy breathing, the sound of her blood dripping on the hardwood floor. Sickened by the display, the artist took a blank canvas and set it on the easel below the western window. In a matter of moments, she had created a glorious church. She looked out the window and studied the pained expression of Jesus hanging on the colossal crucifix. She counted the abundant gold items, wondering how much money the church had spent on them, instead of on the hungry and meek it claimed to serve. A crowd of parishioners filed through the church doors, every type of villager filling the pews. The farmer and his family were in the front row, trying to get closest to God so he would answer the prayers for rain and an abundant crop. Across the aisle, an elderly woman said a prayer for her dead husband and asked when she might be reunited with him, not understanding that she never would. Believers and skeptics held hands as they wished for salvation and survival, peace and prosperity, fame and freedom. Conflicting prayers bounced off the tower's 4 walls. The farmer's prayers for rain were just as heartfelt as the travel agent's plea for clear skies. The teenage boy in the back held his girlfriend's hand and prayed she would abandon her beliefs and have sex with him, while she prayed God would give her the strength to hold out until they were married. Some prayers were silly, many were selfish, most unrealistic, but all were heard, and all were unanswered. The artist studied the canvas. She reached toward it and stroked the hair of a beautiful 8-year-old girl who promised over and over that she'd be good if God let her younger brother walk again. The boy had stepped on a landmine and lost both legs, but the girl truly believed God could change that. A few strokes later, the artist's brush paused, then peppered the street with her final touches. She listened to the rumble outside and set the canvas against the wall, stood at the window, and took in the entire scene. As the villagers set aside their differences and joined hands to say the Lord's Prayer, rebel insurgents crouched outside the building, holding their submachine guns, their fingers anxiously tapping the triggers. The rebels stormed the church, mowed down the farmer and his family, the preacher, the mayor, nearly everyone in attendance. The artist shook her head and left the tower. She'd try again tomorrow.